You've been imprisoned by an adversary you can't see, yet it consumes you from the inside. Fear, that personal demon, thrives on every uncertainty and every restless night as you envision the worst outcomes. If this stings, it's because you've grown so accustomed to it that you believe it's a part of you. But I'm about to reveal something that your mind will fiercely resist. Fear isn't real. It is merely an illusion, a mirage that Nietzsche described as the most basic form of cowardice masquerading as caution. And there you stand, frozen by a thought that isn't even yours, recycling the same justifications for your inaction. It's easier to fault your circumstances than to acknowledge your enslavement. And the truly tragic part? Fear doesn't have to raise its voice. It whispers, using your own inner voice, until you convince yourself you're too frail to confront it. I'm going to share a truth that's hard to accept. Fear can be vanquished by a single thought. A thought so profound that your mind will instinctively reject it. Nothing is definitive. Can you sense it? That void of emptiness. That is the gateway. When you grasp that nothing possesses inherent meaning, you realize fear is merely a construct, a narrative you've clung to dodge the reality of your freedom. Recall the last time you were petrified of failure. Remember that suffocating sensation. Now, observe what actually transpired. Precisely nothing. Most of your fears are phantoms that dissipate the moment you confront them. Yet, you choose to remain idle, conjuring up imaginary tempests while your life slips away in that limbo. Nietzsche proclaimed that man is a bridge, not a destination. Do you see? You are meant to be in motion, evolving, not a static sculpture. Each time fear immobilizes you, you deny your fundamental nature, which is to transform, to expand, to liberate. But be warned, this journey is harsh. It demands confronting everything you've buried beneath your daily routine. Ever wondered why failure terrifies you? It's because your identity hinges on the illusion that without perfection, you're unworthy of acceptance. You've been conditioned to dread disapproval, criticism, rejection, as though your value depends on others' opinions. But here's a secret no one has shared with you. People are too preoccupied with their own fears to focus on yours. And yet, you continue to nurture this illusion. You remain convinced that a misstep would bring the world to a halt to ridicule you. Ready for a brutal truth? Most people will forget your errors within 48 hours. Yet, you transform these mistakes into shackles, into invisible marks of shame, because claiming incapacity is easier than owning your actions. Listen closely. Every time you succumb to that crippling anxiety, you opt to be a bystander in your own life, waiting for a savior to rescue you from your timidity. But no one will come, because only you can eradicate that fear. This isn't about shallow encouragement. It's about making a deliberate choice. The thought that annihilates fear isn't a sweet mantra to recite before a mirror. It's a declaration of war on your own psyche. It's affirming these words and believing them until they shatter you internally. None of this matters so much. There's no invisible tribunal judging your every move. There's no jury to determine your worth. The significance of it all is a fabrication of your making. And if today you decide your fear is irrelevant, then it becomes so. But naturally, you resist this responsibility, because true freedom is a vertigo you'd rather not experience. Nietzsche referred to it as the abyss, the realization that if everything lacks predefined meaning, then you are accountable for crafting your own. And if you falter, there's no one to blame but yourself. See? The root of your fear isn't failure. It's the liberty that comes with it. Want to know what happens when you cease to fear? Silence. The profound silence of discovering that all you feared was an illusion. In that silence, a void opens that only you can fill. A space where you must decide how to wield your existence. And that decision terrifies you more than any fictitious beast. Look around. Notice how most people are trapped in their own fear cages. They're loud, they criticize, but they remain static. Because to move means acknowledging that the judgments of others carry no true weight, that approval is an illusion, and losing it means losing their sense of self. You cannot afford that destiny. If you wish to shatter that prison, you must be merciless with your excuses. Whenever your mind whispers that you're inadequate, counter with this thought: nothing matters. Not your failures, not your triumphs, not the opinions of those who never dared to risk. All is transient. All is vapor. And when you truly grasp this, when you feel it searing through you, fear becomes a mere footnote, a distant voice you can dismiss. Do you know fear's greatest deception? Convincing you it's essential, that it shields you from harm, that it keeps you vigilant. But in truth, it's a blackmailer, a parasite sapping your vitality. If you ignore it, it dwindles. If you cease mentally scripting every disaster that never occurs, it starves. Reflect on this. How many chances have slipped by because you imagined you weren't prepared? How often have you persuaded yourself to wait for a perfect moment that never arrives? Life didn't pause for your hesitations. Time marched on while you idolized fear. But enough. Today could be the day you demolish that idol with a single thought. The thought that everything you fear is a mental construct, nothing more. And if it's a construct, then you can dismantle it. Even if now you feel powerless, even if your heart races at the thought of exposure, the truth is you've always possessed the ability to disregard that voice. Nietzsche wrote that humans must become the Übermensch, the ones who define their own values. But this path doesn't start with external conquests. It starts with the decision to confront fear and declare it powerless. Only then will you uncover the vast expanse of freedom beneath all your insecurities. This space is daunting. It's untamed. It lacks instructions or guarantees, but it is the only place where your life can truly transform. As long as you believe fear is a legitimate caution rather than a habituated response, you will continue to cycle through anxiety, excuses, and stagnation. And here's a truth more painful than any critique: you cherish your fear. It's familiar. It makes you feel significant because it provides you with a narrative where you are a victim of circumstances beyond your control. But that's a falsehood you've repeated so often you can no longer discern between reality and self-pity. Today, you can release it. Not tomorrow. Not when you're ready. Today, with one thought. None of this matters as much as you thought. Fear is insubstantial. And if it's insubstantial, it can't constrain you. Everything else is just excuses. So, breathe. Watch how your mind scrambles to fabricate new reasons to keep you confined. The voice of fear will always seek a crevice to infiltrate. But now you possess knowledge you lacked before. You can disregard it. You don't need to eliminate it. You don't have to combat it. Simply look at it and say, "You don't govern here." That is the thought that dismantles fear. The certainty that there is no meaning except the one you assign. And if you determine fear is meaningless, it becomes just a faint murmur, a remote echo no longer able to dictate your actions. Are you prepared to live with that vertigo? To navigate the tightrope without a safety net? Because if you are, you will uncover something that will forever alter your existence. Behind every fear lies a door, and beyond that door, there are no monsters, only profound silence. A realm where you are free to act, free to fail, free to begin anew without excuses. And now, as your mind searches for the next reason to doubt, recall these words. None of this matters that much. Fear is merely a thought, and a thought cannot bind you unless you permit it. And while you breathe, while that vertigo of freedom begins to fracture the walls you erected around your will, let me guide you to another corner of this mental maze, the trap of identity. Even though you now understand that fear is a thought you can overlook, there is something even more deeply ingrained that will continue attempting to control you. The image you have crafted of yourself. Consider it a costume you've worn since you learned to conform to others' expectations. That mask you've polished for years until it became so convincing that even you believed it. Identity is the second jailer after fear, and it's no coincidence that they nourish each other. Your fear requires a fragile identity to flourish. Your identity, in turn, needs fear to remain intact. Because if one day you rise and decide you can be someone different, your mask fractures. And that terrifies more than any other fear. If there was a moment when you felt your mask crack, I urge you to share it. Subscribe right now so you don't miss the next plunge into the void, because here you won't find tepid speeches, only truths that sting and liberate. And leave me a comment with this phrase: vertigo is my freedom. Not to thank me, but so you yourself proclaim your rebellion against this system that desires you docile, predictable, and frightened. See you in the next video, if you dare to return. Because we are not here to entertain. We are here to ignite every falsehood that confines you. Until then, remember, fear is just a thought, and thoughts don't rule those who dare to tread without a net. Disconnect from this video if you wish, but you won't be able to disconnect from this idea, because now it resides within you, and it will pursue you until you transform your vertigo into strength. See you on the brink.